Hello from North Carolina. This is our 18th, I can't believe it, live session. So our plan is to go live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to share industry news from the previous week. If you are team replay or team live, please let us know that you are joining us by commenting below and letting us know where you are joining from. That is our way of doing a little bit of a virtual mic check. So again, if you are joining us live, please let us know that you are joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rosalinda Cruz, and I am the founder and Chief Business Development Officer of the ACEWOR Collective, where we help underrepresented leaders in fashion with strategic planning and advising. And our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive sustainable fashion industry by filling the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. So on these lives, I try to reconcile my love for fashion and retail with my values around sustainability. Um, uh, Sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. So I try to advocate for supply change while also raising buyer awareness. And I feel like sometimes those two things can be in conflict a bit. But really what my goal is to eliminate as much of the siloed conversations that happen, not just within the apparel and fashion industry, but throughout a lot of other industries. So that's really what we do. I am going to, again, get fancy because that's what I love to do. So in our time together, I try to cover announcements and planning PSAs because, that's what I do. North Carolina news, product, service, workforce, and the green carpet, which is where I talk about brands, concepts, and processes that are being called to the proverbial carpet, right? Because there are no shortage of ethical dilemmas that happen within this industry in particular. I already talked a little bit about the siloed discussions that take place and all the infighting that happens, regardless of where you sit within the apparel supply chain or within the ecosystem. So this is really an invitation to a conversation so that we can really listen for understanding and have dialogue around what's really happening in the industry. I see I got my first. Yay. I'm trying to see if I can bring that up there. Was I able to do this? Sorry, I was trying to see if I could bring up. Yay. Thank you so much, Dale. So, yeah, I forgot where I was at. I got so excited about the comment. I love getting support from the community. So thank you so much for those who are joining us here. The other thing that I actually wanted to do is I'm going to, again, get a little fancy. I'm switching our banners here. So again, for those who are joining a little bit late, please give us a little shout out and also comment below and let us know where you are joining from. So one of the things that I would like to do, and I will make sure that I add this link in the comment, but we're trying to get to 100 YouTube subscribers. So I will drop that link in the comment, but if you can help us reach 100 subscribers, that would be fantastic. That is something that would, it's something that'll, well, a lot of privileges will be unlocked once we get to 100 subscribers. So that is our goal, to try and get to 100 subscribers. So let's move on. I'm going to pause here for a second because I feel like something. Close that out there. In any case, there we go. We got another. Yay! Hello, Jordan, joining from DC. Thank you so much. All right, so we are going to get into it. So with announcements. So first things first, this week is our March Executive Roundtable, and we are going to be focusing on leveraging export opportunities for made in the USA product. Dr. Jordan Knox is joining us here this morning, and if you didn't catch our live Q&A last week, please go back and watch it. We had a great time talking, and we shared a lot of really, really great information. So please check that out. We do have a few spots left. So if you were interested in joining that executive roundtable this week, please message me and I will get you that information if those spots haven't filled up yet. In any case, moving on to our planning PSA. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this is probably the first, I think last week we did our Q&A, and the week before I took a little bit of a break. So I didn't get to give all of my typical planning PSAs, but from a planning perspective, I know that in February, really when a lot of the Q2 planning happens. This is typically when I block out about 3 hours on my calendar to refine Q2 strategy. Remembering that second quarter begins in April, which is the big sort of moments in April are big moments in April are Earth Day, which is now sort of morphed into Earth Month. And then we also have Fashion Revolution Week, which I think a lot of people know them as the people who have been doing the Who Made My Clothes campaign, which is really great because it really highlights the work of people in the garment industry. So, or garment workers specifically. So those are the two big moments that take place in the second quarter. One of the things that I like to do is remind people that Earth Month, I feel like, is sort of the Super Bowl of the sustainable fashion industry. And I think that it can actually be a time period when there is a lot of greenwashing taking place, a lot of performative behavior, which we've seen coming out of Black History Month in February, and we're still seeing a lot of that with Women's History Month, which is taking place now. But one of the things that I try to do is encourage people to show up authentically. And I think that this is, Earth Month is a really good time to reintroduce yourself to your audience and really speak authentically about your values as a business and why you exist beyond, creating revenue. So, if you were able to block out that time in February, then in March, what you can do is really focus on batch creating your content for Q2. And really what that does is it allows you to automate a lot of your work. That way, you are actually more equipped to deal with whatever curveballs come your way, because we know that they're always coming. So to keep on sort of that marketing planning discussion from a marketing standpoint, one of the things that I want to acknowledge is that we are in the middle of spring summer 22 season. So really that focus is more of a B2C focus. In addition to that, we are also, from a marketing perspective, working on the autumn winter 22 season. We know that, and I'll talk about the sales portion of that, but the spring summer, the autumn winter market actually started in February. So from a marketing perspective, there is a little bit of an overlap happening where work is being done from a B2B perspective, as well as the B2C marketing aspect. So, and again, from sales, autumn, winter 22 buying season started in February, really with major markets, and then the focus shift to secondary market. And right now, more of specialty stores are being are in market right now. So that's that from sort of a sales perspective. And then from a design perspective, I think one of the things that I do want to call out is that as projections are coming in from market, the autumn winter 22 season is really starting to take shape. And moving into more sourcing materials and pre-productions. And the reason that that is happening is because the line is taking shape and being edited based on the market response, right? So you can see what, people are responding to, what they're buying into. A lot of time colors are being dropped, styles are being dropped. So that is where we are in that sort of planning of the season. And then for the spring, summer 2023 market, that is also being worked on. So this season is still really in its early stages, and also will become further defined as market response, as customers respond to the current spring season that is in stores now and will continue to be rolling out for a while. So that's that for the planning PSA. But I realize that a lot of my planning discussions have been focused more so on the marketing efforts, and I wanted to make sure that I touched on the sales aspect as well as the design aspect. And I think that talking about that really kind of highlights the complexity, right, of planning a season and why it's so important to put some energy and effort into keeping all of these balls in the air, for lack of a better term. So that's that for planning news. On to North Carolina news. I'm gonna check to see if there are any other folks joining us. Right. Again, for folks who are just joining, please say hello in the comments. Let us know where you are joining from. So North Carolina news, the Carolina Textile District is actually doing another sewing program. This was an initiative that they launched a couple years ago, just recognizing that there is a shortage of industrial sewers and skilled labor from that perspective. And they partnered with community colleges earlier this year, maybe it was towards the end of last year. They did a little sewing boot camp, but one of the things that they actually are launching a program for high school students. This was something they started working with high school students last year, and it is a nice alternative to sort of the after school fast food restaurant job, but they are going to be doing some training around that. Another fun fact about North Carolina, so the U.S. Federation of Workers and Co-ops, along with the Democracy at Work Institute, released their State of the Sector report. And one of the things that they do is they actually put North Carolina as 8th in the nation with the highest density of worker co-ops in the country. And when I looked at that report, it was really nice to see, because New York, which, many of you know that I spent 12 years living in New York City, but New York was number 1 on the list. Puerto Rico, hello, number 3. and Massachusetts was number 4, which is my home state. So it was nice to see that great representation. And that report, if you're interested, it was an easy 8-page report. One of the things that I also want to acknowledge is that people have really been stepping up their reporting game. I think that one, I have been seeing just the information laid out in a way that's easy to digest. A nice sort of mix of text and graphics to really illustrate the point. And also, the other thing that I like is that very clearly communicating what their methodology is, which I think is super, super important. So again, in North Carolina news, the Evolving Textile Conference is taking place this week, March 16th through 17th, and that is being hosted from NC State, the Wilson School of Textiles. So if you haven't signed up for it or are interested, that event is going to be virtual. I know that when they first started planning it, it was going to be an in-person event, but I want to say in the last 6 weeks or so, they decided to move that to be a virtual event. Last bit of news for North Carolina. Also, the Rural Summit is taking place March 21st through the 22nd. And the Rural Summit really focuses on economic development opportunities within rural communities. Oh, hello, Amy. Yay, Team Live. Amy, thank you so much for joining. So the Rural Summit really focuses on economic development opportunities for rural communities in North Carolina. As you guys know, North Carolina is the #1 textile producing state, but it was hit really hard. And there are a lot of rural communities that actually had a thriving textile community. So I think that it's really important to continue to invest in rural development. And not just in North Carolina, but beyond. But that's one of the reasons that it's particularly close to me. And also want to acknowledge that I want to say in the last year or so, Sarah Cheshire from the Industrial Commons and also the Carolina Textile District, she is on the board of directors for, I think it's called Rural NC. So shout out to Sarah for all the great work that she does with them. And in industry news, Salvatore Ferragamo named emerging British Jamaican designer Maximilian Davis as the new creative director. They actually did a big shakeup last year, and this is really, really great news. And also just love the representation that's happening with, within the design community for those who are part of the BIPOC community. So yay. Another interesting thing is that Atlanta and Nashville were named by Keurig as areas of expansion. So I feel like these two sleepy cities are being targeted by brands like Gucci and Balenciaga. So I don't think that a lot of people would associate, those two southern cities as places for global luxury brands to expand into. But I thought that was interesting. Another bit of industry news, which this also could have been in North Carolina news, but the NC State Wilson College of Textile actually published a TSC Water 101 toolbox, and they did a collaboration with students and industry partners to really think about water waste and how to make that work a little bit easier, because we know that there's a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to sustainability work. So yay for them. And what else do we have? Oh, other thing that's really interesting and great to see is that a lot of brands are actually pulling operations from Russia. I believe Hermes was the first store in Moscow to do so. And LVMH has also pulled the closed operations in Russia, along with Keurig and Chanel. So, bravo to them for taking a stance on that. And moving on to product news. Um, Product news. Oh, this is actually, I told you that I skipped a week before, but one of the things that I wanted to share in February was Barbie actually partnered with Harlem Fashion Row to celebrate Black designers in honor of Black History Month. I got to see some of the dolls, and they were absolutely stunning. So yay! Also in product news, two American icons, Dapper Dan and Gap, did a collaboration. It was released last week, and they did, it was a limited edition, and their sweatshirt, they had a sweatshirt that was Dap by Gap, and I wanted it so bad. I know that their product, and I never do this, I'm never waiting in line for a product release, but I really appreciate the work that Dapper Dan has done. Not so much a huge fan of Gap, but I wanted to support the work of Dapper Dan. But they released it at like 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and I literally went online at like 4:05, and they were completely sold out. So I'm not sure how many items were released as part of this limited edition, but it'll be interesting to see that. In other product news, Gucci and Adidas actually are doing a collaboration, which includes apparel, footwear, accessories. This was actually seen in their runway show for the fall/winter collection. So yay for them. What else? What else? All right, moving on to service news. So in service news, and Target actually announced last week their sustainable initiative. It is called Target Zero. So this initiative really makes it easier for guests to identify which products are designed to reduce waste, and helping consumers make a more informed decision about what they are purchasing. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. But I'm also, and now I'm freestyling, but I'm remembering seeing something on my feed about Target has produced, along with a lot of other brands, these reusable bags, which are really just one-use bags that probably are more difficult to break down and probably don't last as long as they should from a reuse standpoint. But they highlighted the fact that these bags, these one-use bags, are really like saturating the market. And I believe they were doing some sort of like clothing collection, and there was like 20 of these like Target bags there. So I do think that there is some work, not only that Target can continue doing, but other brands can continue doing regarding these one-use bags and promotional opportunities, and just being ensuring that their like sustainability efforts are truly that, and not just marketing ploys. So that was my little plug about that. And workforce, I didn't really have any workforce news. I guess the announcement about about Maximilian Davis. That could have been workforce news, but I put that in the industry news section. So in any case, that is about it. One of the things that we are going to move to our next segment here, and I didn't, so the green carpet, um, is where I talk about brands, concepts, and processes that are being called to the proverbial carpet. I've talked about this before, but there are a lot of ethical dilemmas within the fashion industry, and definitely even within sustainable fashion. Lots of siloed discussion and infighting, whether it's from farmers, manufacturers, vendors, academia, brands, journalists, activists. I mean, you name it. It's intense and it can be rather contentious. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was practice this art of calling people in versus calling them out. This is something that I am practicing in real life, in real time. It may feel a little clumsy at time, but I'm all for taking imperfect action. But one of the things that I wanted to do is I didn't really have a lot to talk about in the green carpet, but one of the looking at my notes here, this was something that I didn't really get to talk about, and I am interested to hear people's thoughts about this. I have referenced the remake report that came out earlier this year, and shortly after, and this was actually the report on cotton. So they released a report on cotton just talking about the misinformation. And they really talked about what I liked about this article is that one, it was a hefty report. So it took a long time. I want to say it was like 70 pages. I may be exaggerating. But one of the things that they do is that they talk about they use sort of cotton as a case study and talked about the misinformation that happens, right? And they make a distinction between misinformation and greenwashing. I think that some of the differences between the two is really rooted more in intention. I think that greenwashing, there is more of desire to withhold information and to paint the brand or the business in a more positive light. Whereas with misinformation, it can have, as detrimental of an impact as greenwashing does, but the intent is different. I don't think there is really an intent, and maybe maybe this is something that I should dive into for my next newsletter, and kind of go into defining what misinformation is and what greenwashing is. But I remember seeing a post shortly after that report came out, talking about the fear that was rolling through marketing departments, brands large and small, right? Now that the lid has been lifted around misinformation. And I thought this was really interesting, and I don't know that I've experienced fear rolling through marketing departments as a consumer and somebody who is very much involved in the industry. I have not seen a lot of effort or a lot of change in behavior when it comes to greenwashing. And although with misinformation, I think that a lot of the brands that I do follow have been making a concerted effort to not perpetuate facts without sharing the source, but it's still happening. It's still happening. So I'm kind of curious to hear what everybody else's sort of experience has been, and if they have seen any sort of shift with greenwashing or also with information regarding sustainable efforts within the fashion industry. So I'm curious about that. And that's it. We've reached the half hour mark. I try to keep these lives to 30 minutes because I feel like anything longer than that is a little bit tough to listen to. So what else do I want to actually share? One, I just want to remind everybody that our executive roundtable is taking place this week. It's actually happening on Wednesday. So if you are interested in learning more about export opportunities for your Made in the USA product, please contact me. And just remember that our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive, sustainable fashion industry by filling the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. We go live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please join us next week. And if you have any news that you want us to share, please send it to me. And I hope everybody has a fantastic week. All right. Bye, everybody.